So first of all, again, I want to say thank you to everybody that came together to make this center possible. I want to say thank you to all of you guys, whether you've been here before or not. Thank you for supporting things like this, because it's really important. It's the support that makes the difference in this world. It's the fact that everybody actually stood up and said we're ready for something. Because if you really think about it, take the energy enhancement system. This technology is not new. It's been around for a very, 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 very long time. It's been around for longer than I've been alive, okay? So what changed over the past 12 months? What happened in May of 2022 that didn't happen for 27 years before that? And it's not about an interview with Dr. Michael, and it's not about me, and it's not about her. And it's not just about the center owners either. It's about the fact that everybody was ready to hear a message that was said over and over and over again, and finally it stuck. So really, we the people are the reason why we're sitting here today. We the people are the reason why there's hundreds of centers around the world. It's because people were ready. It's not because of a billionaire with good intentions. It's not because of a billionaire with bad intentions pretending to have good intentions. It's not because of big donors, and it's not because of big investors. It's a so-called like decentralized thing that really happened over here, where everybody came with the same collective intention and said, we want to make this happen, we want to do this. So I just really want to bring that to the forefront of everybody's awareness, because the paradigm shift that we're having right now is one from we need somebody to save us to we are the only ones that can save ourselves. People don't like that very much in the world, because that means that we have to be responsible for things. But that's the only way out of the mess that we've created. We're not victims to the mess that we see in the world today. We're not victims to the people that are doing things to children. I know that that may sound severe and crazy and out of this world, but they're a reflection of us. And when I say us, I'm not talking about us in this room. I'm talking about us, we the people of this world. Everything is a reflection of everything else. And the only way to get out of the mess is to understand how we created that mess in the first place. When we understand how we created that mess in the first place, we'll come to this point of saying, okay, we may not have been the people that pushed the snowball down the hill, but we were definitely the snowflakes that accumulated to make it bigger. Through silence, through compliance, through saying, okay, I'm good, I have money, I have health, I have food on my table for my family and my children, so I don't really care what's going on in Africa 12,000 miles away. But that's not how it works. Because we live in one unit, we live in one body. It's called humanity. Just like you have one body with trillions of cells, we have one planet with billions of people. So if one cell were to function the wrong way and turn cancerous and you're not going to do anything about it, well, then what do you think is going to happen? It's going to spread. So we have a consciousness that's been corrupted. It's a cancerous consciousness that's been spreading, energetically speaking, spiritually speaking, for a very long time right now. War, corruption, greed. People say that's just a part of human nature. No, that's not a part of human nature. I'll tell you what's a part of human nature. If you look at nature and understand how nature works, that's what's a part of human nature. Nature doesn't create diseases. Nature always strives to balance itself. It's called homeostasis. When you get a cut on your hand and you go to sleep, it doesn't matter if you're asleep or awake or even in a coma. That cut will work itself to heal itself without your intervention, because that's what nature actually does. That's what nature actually is. And if we can learn from nature, we'll understand what human nature truly is. We can choose to do things from a corrupted standpoint, but we can also choose to do things from a beautiful place. And there are countries in the world that really practice that. Go to Norway, go to Iceland, you're not really going to see crime there. So if it can happen in one country, why can't it happen in the entire world? They're already exhibiting that. So I just wanted to start with that to set a precedent before we go into what we're going to go into today. And today I really want to speak about a lot of things, and we're going to go into questions and make this interactive. But I'm going to start with explaining how this technology actually works. Not, from a level of only the quantum physicists can understand. The point is, if we want to make a change in this world, we need to be able to explain this ourselves. Otherwise, we just look like people that are following something we don't understand. We're already under a microscope, and already in the establishment, people look at this and say, what is this? It's just screens with lights. It can't be doing anything. But there's a science behind it, and that science is much simpler than you may think. So I'm going to break down the science in a way that everybody in this room, or at least a very, very large percentage, is going to be able to understand how this thing works in all ways. So I'm going to take one more sip of my water and put that in. Let me just erase this. All right. I need the whole board, all the real estate for this one. Okay. So how does the energy enhancement system technology actually work? What is it? What's the science behind it? And is there a way to explain that science in a way where every single one of us can understand without being that high-level quantum physicist using big words that the majority of human beings just don't get? The truth of the matter is me and probably most of you watching this, most of you in this room right now, we're all infants in that world because we don't know it. The more I came to learn it, the more I came to understand it, the simpler it became. If we want to explain something for people to understand, we have to explain it so an infant can understand as well in our infantry stages of understanding what this technology is. So before diving into the actual technology itself, there are five main foundations that we have to understand, and I'm going to make them real simple. The first foundation is the most important one. The first foundation has to do with the environment. So I'm going to write number 1, environment. This is number one thing that we always have to remember. What is the difference between health and disease? A lot of people like making health very complex, making medical stuff extremely complex, and there are nuances and a lot of details and a lot of complexities to it. But there are certain rules that we can make things very simple when we understand them. Rule number 1, you take on the environment that you're in. That's how it works. If you are in a sick environment, if you are in an incoherent environment with dirty electricity, with radiation, with pollution, with toxins, with pesticides in your food, all of that holds an energy. We call that a bioresonant field. And when you spend enough time in an environment, you sink to that bioresonant field. And when you sink to that bioresonant field, if it's a sick one, you will become sick. And if it's a balanced one, you will experience balance. Let me give you examples to understand that on a grounded level. If I were to hug you for long enough, our heartbeats would synchronize because we are syncing to a field together. What happens when women spend enough time together in the same room? Their menstrual cycles synchronize, and we know that one woman doesn't give it to the next. It's not contagious. So there's something else going on here, right? It's laughable at this point because we know that you're not giving it from one woman to another. There is a bioresonant field that those women are syncing to. And that bioresonant field that they're syncing to is then allowing them to synchronize their expressions, in this case, of a menstrual cycle. Sickness and health works the same exact way. So when you experience sickness, what you're doing is tuning into a bioresonant field that's not productive for your health. And when you experience health, what you're doing is tuning into a bioresonant field that's balanced. That's number 1. The environment that you're in dictates the level of how you experience the expression of your health. We'll go deeper into that in just a second, but this foundation is what everything is going to keep tying back to. Number 2 has to do with the law of conservation. The law of conservation is something that all of us learned in about 6th or 7th grade. Whether you remember it or not, it's the base of all science as we know it. And this law basically says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. If energy cannot be created or destroyed, that implies that there's no beginning or end. Mm-hmm. When there's something with no beginning or end, that's another way of saying infinite. We'll get back to that in just a second as well. The next 3 foundations have to do with cellular charge, pH, and oxygen levels. These 3 things are extremely interconnected because they're all expressing the same thing in a different way. And I'll explain what that means in just a second. Let's start with number 1, cellular charge. What is health? Health starts within your cells. A high electrical charge within your cells leads you to experience health. A low electrical charge, a deficiency of electricity and that charge within your cells, leads to disease. So the goal is not to ask, how do I stop being sick or how do I become healthy? Through this awareness, it says, how do I charge my cells? Because on the spectrum of cellular charge, in the units of millivolts, because that's how they measure them on an electrical charge within your cells, 70 to 90 millivolts is optimal. And anything going towards this way, specifically 20 and below, is where cancer resides. That's where you create an environment within your cells that allows for things like diseases, things like cancer, heart disease, depression, anxiety, all of those things come in. They're all in accordance and alignment with a low electrical charge within your cells. So we know that a low charge is disease and a high charge is health. Let's go to this one. pH stands for hydrogen potential, the potential of hydrogen in your body. Hydrogen potential, or pH, we're just going to make it simple and call neutral 7. Anywhere below that is called acidic, and anywhere above that is called alkaline. Most of us know this. Acidic bodies render environments where diseases can flourish. More alkaline bodies render environments where diseases cannot flourish because it's bringing us back into our natural state. So low pH, disease. High pH, health. We're going to go to the last part. Oxygen levels. There was a doctor named Dr. Otto Warburg in the 18 or 1900s, and he won the Nobel Prize for proving the following. He said, deprive a single cell of 35% of its oxygen for 48 hours, and that cell will turn cancerous. What that means is when you have an oxygen deficient environment, you give an environment for cancer and disease to flourish. When you have an oxygen-rich environment, you render an environment that disease cannot flourish and health is the only thing that's left. So instead of saying, how do I fight the cancer? Now you can ask yourself, how do I just change the environment to make that thing impossible to live within me and flourish within me in the first place? Every single one of these things, cellular charge, pH, and oxygen levels, are 3 different engines expressing the same thing. If you don't know how to charge your cells, and you just focus on pH, a body with an alkaline pH will render charged cells and an oxygen-rich environment. If you don't know how to shift your pH and you just focus on oxygen levels, when you increase the oxygen content within your body, this will render a higher pH and a higher cellular charge. And if you don't know how to do this and you're just charging the cells, then what comes next is a high pH and a high oxygen level. All of them do the same thing, giving you 3 different engines, 3 different mediums to get to the same point. This technology, the energy enhancement system technology, one of its main components is intended to charge the cells. Because let's go back to foundation number 1. The environment that you're in is the environment that you will sync to. If you're in an environment that is charged at 70 to 90 millivolts and you spend enough time in that environment, then your cells will start charging and syncing to that 70 to 90 millivolts and remain in their optimal charge. So those are your 5 components: your environment, your law of conservation, energy cannot be created or destroyed, the cellular charge and its importance, the pH and its importance, and the oxygen levels and its importance. Now once we understand that, we're going to dive into number 2, which is the law of conservation, to understand how this technology actually works.